Alright, hi there guys, welcome to the last episode of Dishonored Lore. Now, it's probably maybe a top 10 video coming out, scripts written for it. Anyways, in this episode we're going to be summarizing the things in Dishonored that hopefully are going to have to do, have a role in Dishonored 2, so we have a deeper understanding of kind of what's going on when we go into Dishonored 2. So there might be spoilers, there might be different things like that, but we're going to be trying to focus on Dishonored, so I apologize if there's any spoilers. We're going to try to cover them right in the beginning, so if you don't want to listen to them, you just want to listen to the lore, feel free to. But this is also probably the episode that I had the best filming experience with, so if you would just want to skip to the end, you're bored already, you're like, I don't want a summary episode, at least go and watch around the 8-minute mark, because there's a pretty awesome kill, pretty much the end of the level. Really proud of it. Anyways, so let's talk about some of the spoilers. So I've realized that because we're going to be talking about some of the lore in Dishonored that has to do with the spoilers in Dishonored 2, you're probably going to find them out regardless. So if you really want to avoid all spoilers for Dishonored 2, you may want to stop the video right here. With that said, let's talk about some of these spoilers. So we know that the game is going to take place in Serkanos, which is the continent where Daud is from. More specifically in the city of Karnaca, which is where Corvo's from. So they're both from the same place. And throughout the story, we've had this beautiful poetry going on between those two characters. And depending on how the game ends in Briggamore Witches, different things could happen. So let's kind of go through that really quick, because I think it's going to play a very pivotal role in Dishonored 2. So, Daud starts this off by killing Corvo's lover, Jessamine Caldwin, on Wrenhaven River, the same river where later Corvo will be able to decide to spare or take Daud's life in the flooded district where the Wrenhaven River has flooded into. Now, after this, he kidnaps Emily, gives her to the Burrows, and feels this terrible guilt. And the outsider appears to him and gives him one last gift and a name, Delilah. So, upon finding out that Delilah is in fact going to take Emily's body and use it so that Delilah can in fact be the Empress, Daud stops that and then gives Corvo a choice to take his life or to spare it. And I'm going to assume, for the sake of Dishonored 2, that the canon ending for this is that Corvo does in fact spare Daud's life. And what that means is that after you spare Daud's life, or Corvo spares Daud's life, you can see Daud putting his dagger or his sword on Jessamine Caldwin's grave, the Empress's grave, and completing this beautiful cycle of poetry. It's as if Corvo has forgiven Daud for killing his lover by sparing his life, and Daud has forgiven himself by placing that dagger on Jessamine's grave and saying basically, I'm retired. This is the last mistake I made. But here's the thing. Daud's way too interesting of a character. He's pretty much the most interesting character in Dishonored, and the most fleshed out character in the lore, if you think about it after the DLCs. So they're definitely going to bring him back. And if you think about it, Emily is Corvo's daughter. We know that. And Corvo has always had this protective instinct and this desire to care for Emily. He has this love for Emily because she's his daughter. But, in a way, Emily kind of has two fathers. Because if you think about it, Daud killed Emily's mother. And he feels terrible about that. So he feels indebted to Emily to protect her. So it's like she has these two fathers. Corvo, who's probably more out in the open now, and Daud, who is now the father in the shadows, always looking out for her. And Daud and Corvo now have this relationship where Corvo has spared his life, he's forgiven him. And that opens up all sorts of opportunities, all sorts of storylines that they could play with in Dishonored 2. So I really think that that's going to play a pivotal role. That we're going to see Daud come back, and it's going to be in this wonderful way, and they're both going to be protecting Emily. But here's the thing. In Dishonored 2, Emily's a badass. So whether Corvo and Daud are going to be doing the saving, or if Emily's going to be doing the saving, I don't know. I think they have a lot to play with in Dishonored 2, and I think that's really good. Because I'm excited about Emily as a character in general. She's interesting enough as it is, but we don't know that much about her. Like, in the lore, in Dishonored, she essentially plays the role of the world. Depending on how you're interacting with the world, whether you're killing everybody left and right, or doing your best to not kill anybody. Emily reflects that. She either becomes a creepy girl or a well-mannered, kind of normal, gentle person, realizing that all life is sacred and yada yada yada. But we don't actually know that much about her personality or whatnot, because it changes. It's variable. It's not set in stone. And that's one of the aspects about Dishonored that's great. But I think in Dishonored 2, because you have two playable characters right off the bat, when you're playing the character, you don't really know what's canon, because you're making the decisions right there live. But when you aren't playing the character, when you're just finding out about the character, that's when you kind of get a glimpse at the lore, right? So when you're Jessamine in Dishonored 2, not Jessamine, Emily in Dishonored 2, you're probably going to be finding out a lot about Corvo as a character and what he's been doing, and vice versa. When you're playing as Corvo, you're going to be finding out a lot more about Emily. And I think that's going to be a really fun aspect to the game, is being able to explore the story and what happened to the different characters through each character's eyes. And so I'm really excited about that. However, we don't really know that much about Emily. And then we have Corvo, who we know his military history. We know at age 16 he won the Blade Verbena, an annual sword competition, and became the Grand Circanian Guard, which, might play a role. Maybe he can come back and kick ass as an old guy in the Blade Verbena. Who knows? But he held that role, and we're probably going to see a lot more of those relationships that he had in Cercanos and in Karnaca. Maybe even his family, if he has any other family that aren't dead, play a role in Dishonored 2, and it's just very interesting that that's probably going to happen. But other than that, there isn't really anything that to be said about Corvo that's going to play a pivotal role in Dishonored 2 that we don't already know from playing through the game. But there is one more character that's probably going to play a really large role, and that is Jessamine Caldwin, through the heart. So Jessamine's the heart. Throughout the game, she's been telling us more about the world, and it seems like there's a lot of things that Jessamine knew about the corruption and about things that were going on in the world of Dishonored. But it also seemed like she was getting some of her information from the outsider. So how the heart is going to play a role in Dishonored 2, and keep in mind that the heart will not leave this world until until everybody that is important to her also leaves the world. And so you've got Corvo, her husband, her lover. You've got Emily, her daughter, and maybe even Daud. Who knows? But the heart's definitely going to be in Dishonored 2, and I'm wondering what kind of role it plays, because Jessamine's not going to know as much about Karnaca and Cercanos. So is it going to be all information that she gets from the outsider? And that just leaves us with some more questions. How is the outsider going to play a role in Dishonored 2? How is Granny Rags going to play a role, What in the world is going on with all these robots? Are we ever going to get a DLC that allows us to go to the Pandician continent? That would be really cool. I want to go to Pandacia because that's where all this happens, right? And I would really be interested if you ever get to go there. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. This has been OhTheHumanity, and I am signing off.